Good evening, everyone. Welcome to yet another weekend, another Sunday. Pardon me. I meant to say Sunday. Welcome to another Sunday. Oh, please pardon my background noise. Hold on. All right. So, good evening once again, and welcome to yet another day of learning. This is the 10th cohort of the Electoral College, and we are glad to have you join us today. We will take a few minutes to ensure that our classmates and participants are given ample time to join. So we'll take about 5 minutes before we commence. In terms of ground rules, okay, before I do that, please pardon my manners. My name is Adeshola. I will be your moderator for this evening. And let me get to reiterating or stating our ground rules where we come to class. Please ensure that immediately you come in, your mics are muted, you place your names in the chat box as you would want them to appear on your certificate of participation at the end of this cohort. And then also ensure that the political parties that you represent within the college, you state that also for attendance purposes, and also mention where you are reaching us from. We would sincerely appreciate that we follow these ground rules to the letter. Today, we will be having a gentleman who will be taking us on media and information literacy. He will be focusing on misinformation and disinformation. But before I go ahead to read his profile, we would take some time out, as I have mentioned before. And at 4:05, I will be back to read his introduction, then we can delve into today's class. Please note that the facilitation will run smoothly. If we have comments, questions, inputs, observations, we can place them in the chat box. And after the session, we will take your questions. If you have questions, we would do that in two ways. You can raise up your hands after the session, and then we'll call you to speak. Or alternately, you can place your questions in the chat box and we'll take them one after the other. Thank you very much and see you in about 3 minutes. So that let's give ample time for others to join us. Thank you and please stay tuned. Okay, it's 4:05, and we say welcome once again. My name is Adeshola. I'll be your moderator for this evening. Welcome, 10th cohort. And let's get right into it. Our facilitator is in class, and we would waste no further time to introduce him. He is a journalist with over 10 years experience covering issues of social justice, politics, public procurement, human rights abuses, among others. He is currently the editor of Dubawa. He leads a team of fact checkers and researchers working to combat the menace of information disorder in the West African sub-region. Prior to this engagement, he worked with Premium Times as the National Assembly correspondent covering the Nigerian Senate. At different times in his career, he has worked as the editorial consultant on projects including the Oil and Gas Fellowship, sponsored by the Natural Resource Governance Institute, and the Ford Foundation-sponsored West Africa Climate Change Fellowship, amongst others. In the past few years, he has trained hundreds of journalists on fact-checking, investigative journalism, media ethics, and others. Our facilitator this evening holds a bachelor's degree in political science from the Obafemi Awolowo University and a master's degree in communication studies with distinction from the Vrije Universiteit in Brussels. I really do hope I got that right. Please, ladies and gentlemen, 10th cohort, let's make welcome Mr. Kemi Busari, even as he takes us on media and information literacy. Good evening, sir, and welcome. You have the virtual lectern. Hand it over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. Let me first of all say I'm glad to be here, and I also thought that for people to gather around on a Sunday where some mothers are eating chicken in their house, so it means this particular issue is very important to all of us. So, before I go on, I want to ask how long I have for the session. I mean, the first parts.
Okay, Mr. Busari, so the entire session should last an hour, 30 minutes. So
Okay.
give or take, by 5:30, we should be done with both the projection, facilitation, and the questions. So we have 1 hour, 30 minutes. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So, good evening once again. Like she rightly introduced, my name is Kemi Busari. I am the editor of Dubawa, which is a fact-checking media and information literacy and verification platform. Today, what we are trying to do basically is to share some information, some ideas with one another on how best we can spot misinformation and disinformation going into the elections. And don't worry too much if you don't understand what both terms are. It's part of the things we are going to quickly share with each other in the slides as well. So I have an outline here, which starts with understanding what media and information literacy is, identifying the key aspects of MIL, some few examples. We'll also go to teach what fake news is, media literacy skills, fact-checking, and what of it. So quickly, before we start, I would like to share with us that we are interrogating media and information literacy in the domain of mass communication. So anytime I mention media, what I mean is radio, TV, newspapers, social media, and what have you. So it doesn't go outside that. It's not advertising and other parts of cinema and other parts of media are not included. So let's start. A lot of time we hear the word media and information literacy, media and information literacy. What does it even mean? So there are several definitions for media and information literacy. And I decided to pick two of it, and we are also going to break it down together here. So media and information literacy is a combination of knowledge attitude, skills, and practices required to assess, analyze, evaluate, use, produce, and communicate information and knowledge in creative, legal, and ethical ways that respect human rights. This is a very, very, very broad definition. And if you look at some of the key themes, if you want to take them one after the other, it takes a while for one to discuss some of the key themes. But before we break them down, let's look at the second definition, which I have opted for. It's a definition by UNESCO in 2016, and they define media and information literacy as a set of competencies to search, critically evaluate, use, and contribute to information and media contents wisely. Knowledge of one's rights online, the rights you have online, understanding how to combat online hate speech and cyberbullying, understanding of the ethical issues surrounding the access and use of information, and engage with media and ICTs to promote equality, free expression, intercultural/religious dialogue, peace, and so on. So I don't know if any one of us have seen the media and information literacy module for UNESCO. It's very, very, very loaded. But what we are trying to do here today is to break it down in such a way that we are able to identify the key parts of it that we can deploy going into the election in 2023. And I've tried to do that by identifying the key themes in these two definitions, the key things that we should put our mind in these two definitions. And they are knowledge, attitude, skills and competencies, practices, rights and ethics, and production of content. So diving into these common factors straight, let's start with knowledge. So media and information literacy is very broad, and one of the key aspects of it is knowledge. So the idea is such that people have basic knowledge of the media environments in a way to consume information in a harmless manner. So what MIL is trying to teach us is that you as an individual should have knowledge of your information ecosystem, the media environment in which you consume news. So some of the things you have to understand as an MIL literate person is where to search for news. So we have several channels of information these days. Information come from WhatsApp, come from Twitter, come from Facebook, come from what have you. So you as an MIL literate person should understand that any information regarding results of election, the best means to get it is through INEC. And if you say through INEC, it's not just a random WhatsApp message that someone is sharing. It could be through the INEC website. It could be through some credible media platforms and what have you. So where to search for news is one very important MIL knowledge, because a lot of time you see people share an information with you, and if you are the critical type and ask them, oh, where did you get this information? They can just tell you, oh, someone sent it to me on WhatsApp. Where does that someone get it from? And they can't answer you any longer. So the next one is how to recognize balanced news. So it's very important. We are going into election, and a lot of people have interests, and they use that interest to create some content and push it to the public. Say, for instance, someone who is obedient or someone who is articulate or batified, the kind of information that they would be putting out, even at official level, will be an unbalanced information. Yeah, so you need to recognize their biases, and you need to find a way to also recognize how a balanced news would come to you. So there's a saying by some of our colleagues, journalists, that if you're a Nigerian, if you want to read news about, accurate news about APC rather, things about APC, you read the Nation newspaper. If you want to read about PDP, you read Tribune or some other newspapers, and if you want to balance it, you read Punch. So of course, that's just by the way, but you as an MIL literate person need to be able to recognize balances. Then you need to be able to identify facts from opinion. So if a politician goes to say, we are the biggest political party in the whole world and something like that, it's not backed by any facts. And This is election season. Trust me, they'll put out a lot of opinions and they disguise it as facts for you. So you need to be able to identify the two. Then how to identify a satirical content. I'm going to share an example with us. Some people are putting out satires and they are disguising it as normal contents in this particular period. So also the last one, which is something I like to emphasize very well, is to understanding that platforms have an agenda. Be it no matter be it a political party, media organizations, or whatever, everybody has an agenda. Everybody has an interest. So you need to understand that interest in the way you engage with the kind of information they give you. So a typical NTA has an agenda, and the agenda is to paint a very good picture of the government. Yeah, that's the agenda of NTA. Some other media organizations also have their agenda. Some, in fact, many media organizations in Nigeria currently have an agenda to paint some politicians good to the public. So you as a consumer of information need to understand this agenda and deploy that understanding in relating with the kind of contents they produce. So let's look at this example very quickly. And by the way, if you have a quick question, please, you are free to stop me. I'm usually not a fan of just speaking without getting any form of response. So this is a news story that came out, I think, last year or the last 2 years. And the title is Chinese authorities seize over 7,200 human penises on a cargo ship from Nigeria. So it came out and a lot of people saw it, people retweeted, people reproduced it on different platforms and what have you. I picked two of the reactions. Let's start with the one on the right. It's a reaction from Femi Fani-Kayode. He tweeted this: a ship from Nigeria has been impounded in China while trying to smuggle in 7,200 penises. Hundreds of thousands of Nigerian penises are smuggled into China every year rather. Nigeria is the world's largest exporter of penises, and this is why kidnapping and ritual killings are rife here. So this man is saying that Nigeria is the world's largest exporter of penises. I don't know any statistics anywhere that proves that. Then let's go to the reaction on the left. The reaction on the left is by the House of Representatives in Nigeria. Reps to investigate export of over 7,000 refrigerated penis to China. So the House of Reps came together. There was a motion that seeks to investigate this, and they decided to form a committee to investigate how some people exported over 7,200 penises from Nigeria to China. Meanwhile, it's just a content from a satire website. So the satire website just put the content together, say the Nigeria saying that 7,200 penises were exported. It's not a real news. It's just satire. And if you look very closely at the satire websites, they put a disclaimer. World News Daily Report assumes all responsibility for the satirical nature of its articles and for the fictional nature of their content. All characters appearing in the articles in this letter, even those based on real people, are entirely fictional. So they've already put it there that it's fictional, but you know, there's something about Nigerian, especially bloggers. They just want the kind of content that brings traffic to their website. So they just went there, pick the content, push it to the public. From there, some regular news platforms also saw it. They published it without verifying whether it is true or false. It got to the House of Rep and it became something important, whereas it's just satire. So going into the election, there will be a lot of content people just putting out satire content, and you need to understand how to identify some of these content. And one of the ways is trying to check if there's a disclaimer, trying to check whether such information exists anywhere else and what have you. So with that, we are done with knowledge. So there are some few knowledge that we need to imbibe as Emayako. So the next one is attitude. And attitude is very, very important in the sense that everybody has some form of political interest. And this political interest defines the way we relate with the information we see. So someone supporting party A, if such person sees a content that speaks ill of party A, will already feel like, oh, why are you writing this about my candidates or what have you? And if it's party B, if someone writes something good about party B, the person will be very glad to share the content. But if it's a false content about our party B, the person will not be glad to share such content. So you have to understand some of these things, and it's all from in the aspects of attitude. So attitude in this sense refers to the way we think or feel about media content that comes our way. Oftentimes, the way one feels about content determines one's decision to accept the information or even disseminate it. So part of the things we need to understand about attitude is, number one, we need to approach information with an open mind. Even if you are a supporter of party A, you shouldn't already add it at the back of your mind that anything that comes from party B or C is bad, or anything that comes from party A is good. You need to approach information with an open mind. Okay, this person is saying this or and that. Could it be true? How can I verify whether it's true or false, and what of you? Then check for cognitive biases. So for some of us, the kind of information we consume are the kind of information that confirm our views. We already have a kind of mindset about something, and because of that, anything that comes that speaks to that mindset is what we agree with. Anything that speaks otherwise is not what it's. So, for instance, I like to use the example of my Facebook. So, I like football a lot, and most of the pages I follow on my Facebook are pages that says positive things about my team. So it's quite difficult for you to see anything bad about my team on my face. So I'm already biased. I already have cognitive biases towards that particular team. So, and it's the same way we also have biases towards politicians, towards issues. So whenever we are trying to consume information, we need to purge ourselves of the biases. Then the next one is filter bubble. Filter bubble is a kind of situation whereby you already boxed yourself into a corner on the kind of information you get. So you try to check information about APC every time on your phone or on your laptop or what have you. So every time you go online, the only kind of information you're going to be getting is information about APC, APC, APC. So you need to check filter bubble. And then the last one, you need to respect other people's views. This is a very important attitude, especially in a democracy. A lot of people will say things that you don't like. A lot of people will say bad things about your candidates. You need to respect their views. As an MIL literate person, you don't just go out and start abusing them. So let's move on to the next one. Our skills and competencies. It's also important for an MIL literate person to be skillful to some extent and competent in identifying false information and in making decisions about the kinds of information they get. So the first one is you need to have the skill of how to assess credible information. So one of the skills of how to assess credible information is maybe subscribing to credible channels. It's also about checking information in more than one platform. Then the next one is video editing. You need to identify, you need a little bit skill of video editing and also how to identify when videos are edited. Then identifying deepfake. Deepfake is something that is in the larger conversation of fake news everywhere in the world now. So people can do a video of me saying vote for this person without me saying it. And we've seen a lot of that, especially in Europe and America in the past few elections. So you need to identify some of these deepfakes and how they are being produced. Then treating photo alteration. So there's a picture recently of Ebuka that some people said that Tinubu used the picture to maybe dress like Ebuka and what have you. And if a fact checker sees that immediately, there are a few features that you try to look out for to know whether it is. Although sometimes you can't even, because even me, I couldn't spot it until I saw the two pictures as well. So the skill to identify photo alteration is important. And then identifying false information. We'll do a little bit more of this in the slides that follows. So this is a tweet allegedly by Atiku Abubakar. It reads, after the renowned pastor of Living Faith prayed for me, I whispered, those jets would not fuel themselves. He laughed. I gave him a generous gift of $10 million to support his ministry. Thank you for the prayers. God bless you. Before I move on, I would like to ask, do we spot something? Is there a red flag? Is there something untoward about these tweets? Anyone can speak. Is that something that doesn't look regular about these tweets? Okay, Benedicta.
I think Atiku is verified on Twitter, but it doesn't look verified on this.
Great. Atiku Abubakar is verified on
screenshots. That's if this a tweet.
Okay, thank you. Atiku Abubakar is verified, and this particular tweet is not verified. So let's see more people. Yusuf.
Okay, sorry, can you take off the black listing on the tweet so that we can? There's a black.
Okay. How about now?
No, okay, yes. So I think I read about Atiku Abubakar. He released the press and he said any tweet that doesn't have AA behind the tweet is not from him. So I think, but it's deceptive actually. So, but this one of the reasons.
Great, thank you. Then let's take one last person. Olaide.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Kemi. Yeah, for me, I think one, the pastor in question is not the type that collect money from politician or donation. So in that case, it doesn't have the record of collecting money to support ministry or whatsoever. So from that perspective, apart from the verification of the handle, I think I will not believe such posts.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I think we've all spoken well, and I mean we have all demonstrated that we are media literate already. So there are a few things that we already show you that this thing is false. The AA part, I didn't even think about that before coming into this session. If you check the handle, it's not the same handle as Atiku Abubakar. And if you check the content itself, it appears to me as very pedestrian. A politician who actually gave someone $10 million will not come out to write something like this. Of course, they might write a content to say, I donated $10 million to this person, but it won't come this way. So those are some of the red flags that you have to look out for as a media literate person. And this handle is not even verified. That's one of the biggest red flags. So, or if you check the kind of, it's so unfortunate that we can't see the comment. If you check the comments under this, a lot of people believe this, especially on Facebook. A lot of people, see your presidential candidate, see this, see that. And so you have to be media literate to understand this kind of content. So let's move on to the next one. I think the time is going. So the next one is practices. So as a media literate person, you need to imbibe some practices when relating with information, both online and offline, especially online. So there are a few harmful practices. Impulsive sharing. You see something and you feel like, oh, this is not how this thing should be. And before you know it, you just share it. Bam. That is wrong. So the best practice is think before you share. Then the next one is sharing obscene content. That is just sharing bad content that doesn't appeal to some people's maybe violence or blood or what have you. So the safe practice is for you to censor yourself before you share something. Then the next one is not minding people's sensitivity. It's election season, and whatever you put out, trust me, it affects some people. Whether you are saying putting out false information or even accurate information, so you need to identify people's sensitivity, and you need to mind it before you put out information. Then berating opposing opinions. You just talking down on any opinion that doesn't conform with your own opinion. It's very wrong. You need to respect people's views. The next one is the rights and ethics. So for you as a media and information literate person, you need to identify the community rules of whatever platform you are engaging with. So for Facebook, there are some community rules. For Twitter, there are community rules, Instagrams, and all. So as a media and information literate person, you need to understand these community rules. And you need to engage in a way that you don't flout these community rules. Then you need to check plagiarism. You don't do copy and paste, forwarded as received. Those are not rights for someone as a media and information literate person. Then you need to understand the basic ethics. Excuse me, please, just 1 minute. So you need to understand the basic ethics of journalism. It's very important for you as a media and information literate person. And then the last one, you need to understand your rights as a consumer of information. I'm trying to rush so that we can take some practical part of it. So the last one, it's not only about you consuming information. Media and information literacy doesn't stop at how to consume information, how to interpret, or what have you. It also affects the production of content, even at your own part. So you need to create media thoughtfully. So whatever information you are putting out, you need to be very thoughtful about it. How is this going to affect the people around me? How is this going to affect the voting pattern? How is it going to affect political participation in my area and what have you? So the next one is you should create media with the recipients in mind. So whenever you are pushing out a content, you have to put the recipients in mind. Is this going to hurt this person? Is this going to encourage this person to vote? Is this going to deter this person going out during election and what have you? Create media consistent with community rules. Don't forget, I told you earlier that different platforms have different community rules. So you don't just go on Facebook and put out a false information. There's a way they can flag it. You don't just go on Facebook and put out bloodied images or violence or whatever. There's a way they can flag it and what have you. So also create media within the ambit of the law. Don't go out to create a media that will probably put you in trouble eventually. Yeah, I think we've been able to cover the different aspects of media and information literacy. So before we move on, I would like to ask if there is any question. Okay, so I believe people are trying to delay their question till the end. So,
There's a question
okay,
about ID.
let's have it.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah,
Go
thank you
ahead with
very
your
much
question,
for
please.
the session. Yeah, I want to confirm when it comes to copyright and putting reference to, as it were, like, today a priest was born to death at Niger West.
Okay.
And you discover that a lot of media houses capture the news and they post it. Now, in this context, I do believe that it's not all the media houses that actually got the news initially. How do you solve the issue of Dubawa or Premium News capture the news. From there, you see that other news station also, other news platform also will be capturing the same news you initially posted, whereas there was no reference to Premium. How do you solve that? That is one. Two, what is your view to, I need a clarification as regard, if I get a content from you and I did a bit of adjustment and I repost, sometimes people will put copy or, can you hear me?
Go ahead, please.
All right, people will put copy or they put the reference you there without taking permission of, can I go ahead and share? So what is professional perspective to this? Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much. The first one is about plagiarism, and it's so unfortunate that in Nigeria, especially in the media space, it has become a sort of norm. Let me shock you. I was on a beat some few years ago, and some of the things I saw covering that beat was very shocking. So what some journalists do is whenever they receive maybe press statements or maybe they cover an event, one of them within that WhatsApp group will write it as a news, drop it on the WhatsApp group, and every others will just pick it from there, change some of the few things to their house style, and they'll publish. That is why the following day, if you check several newspapers in Nigeria, you see the same thing. So it is as bad as that. And the unfortunate thing is they are not even seeing it as plagiarism any longer. So the best thing and some of the things we do in our own media organization, I can speak for Dubawa and I can speak for Premium Times to some very good extent, is before putting out the information, especially if it's a controversial one, you have to confirm from the original source. I think one of the latest example of this is this, I think, former NECO boss who was said to have been killed or something like that, or kidnapped and killed around one period like that. And every media organization published it. Premium Times did not publish until we try to confirm from the real source what the accurate information is. So if you are running a media organization, don't be afraid to get late to publish such information, just to make sure that it's accurate. Yeah, and the second one, just going ahead to copy an information and then pasting it. I'll give you an example. I wrote my master thesis on press freedom, and I looked into some of the laws that has been used to muzzle the press in Nigeria. So one of the cases I checked was a case that involved one journalist, I think in Ogun State. This journalist copied a content from somewhere and pasted it on his Facebook page. And he was arrested and he was taken to court using the Cybercrime Act. So you should, even if first of all, you should try to verify the kind of information you get that you also intend to share on social media platform. And even if you are sharing it, you have to reference it to the original source. So it's a bad habit if you just go ahead and copy it. Even if you make some few changes to it, it is still important for you to reference it to the original source. Yeah, I hope I've been able to answer your question. I'll quickly run through the other slides and then we'll come back to discuss in the next 20 minutes or thereabouts. So let's quickly look at this term, fake news. I'm sure most of us have seen this. People will say, oh, fake news this, fake news that, and yeah, what do we really mean by fake news? So fake news is defined as fabricated, false or misleading information presented as news. So it means someone sitting there in the comforts of their room or somewhere else, and then just putting out false information. Yeah, so, and it comes in different ways. But before we go into the different parts of fake news, I would like to state that fact checkers and media scholars, they don't like to use the word fake news. And there are a few reasons to it. So a lot of time they like to use the term information disorder to define all forms of false information that they come across. And there are several reasons to it. Number one reason is that When you say something is news, it means it's already defined. That is, it's only news, whether true or false, that you can put within that confine. And if you look at it, the things that pollute the information environment is beyond news. We have myths, we have satires, we have misleading contents and what have you. So it's not only news that pollutes the information environment. So if you say fake news, you are restricting it to only news, and that is woefully inadequate. Secondly, you also realize that the word fake news has been appropriated by politicians. So for instance, the man on the screen here, Donald Trump, whenever you put out a content that doesn't conform with his position, you will just say, oh, that's fake news. The same thing with some Nigerian spokespersons. Whenever you put out an information that they feel doesn't conform with their own position, they call it fake news. So because of those reasons, media scholars like to use the word information disorder rather than fake news. So let's look at the types of information disorder. We have three major types. Number one is disinformation, the one that starts with D. And disinformation is information that is false and deliberately created to cause harm. And this happens when a person sharing the information put out falsehood. So we would have seen some fake press releases in the media in the past. So someone just sitting there in their house and saying party A is sharing, okay, there was one recently, a video of I think Borno State governor sharing money to some IDPs, and then they were collecting some things from those IDP. And when someone wanted to share it, they said the state governor is collecting their PVCs. But that is false. If you look at it closely, you realize that it's just they are collecting their IDP's card so that they will be able to track who has collected what. So this information is information that is false and deliberately created to cause harm to a person. Then the next one is misinformation. Misinformation is false, yeah, but not created or shared with the intention of causing harm. So someone produced a false information, then push it to you, you didn't verify, and then you just share it. Say, for instance, you have a family relative traveling on Abuja-Kaduna Expressway, and someone just sent you a message that, oh, they are killing people on Kaduna-Abuja Expressway. You didn't verify whether it is true or false, you just sent it out. So you are misinforming. The person that created the false information is disinforming. And the last one is malinformation. It is information that is based on reality, but it is used to inflict harm on a person. So what they are talking about actually happened, but the person that is sharing it is just using it to cause harm to a person, to an organization, or to a country. I always like to use the example of Tiwa Savage video, sex tape, that came out, I think, 2 years ago or thereabouts. So those are the three types of information disorder. Don't forget, for disinformation, it is false and the intention is to cause harm. For misinformation, it is false, but the intention is not to cause harm. And for malinformation, it is true, but the intention is to cause harm. So these are the common forms of false information that we see: satire or parody, misleading content, imposter content, fabricated content, false connection, false context, manipulated content. We'll still see some examples. So now that we've understood what media and information literacy is, what fake news is, how can we be media literate? So if you're engaging in news, maybe you see a news article, before you accept the information as being true or false, try to ask yourself some of these questions. Who created the content? Why is the content created? What are the biases of the author or channel? What does this author aim to achieve? What techniques were used to make this message believable? What details were left out and what have you? Get these slides and you should be able to go through some of this. So let's treat news, because a lot of the information that we get come from news. And you realize that a lot of time people don't even read every part of the news any longer. So if you are engaging with the news, the first thing that you have to do as a media and information literate person is read beyond the headline. It is very, very, very important for you to read beyond the headline. And I have an example of this, a very funny example. Some few years ago, I saw an headline. The headline reads, Buhari in prison for impregnating 12-year-old girl in Katsina. Yeah, if you see the kind of comments under this post, I tried to search for it recently, but I couldn't see it again. A lot of people came out, oh, stupid president, a pedophile, is the worst president Nigeria has ever seen, and what have you. Meanwhile, that's not the real story. The real story is there's a boy in Katsina who impregnated, the boy's name is Buhari, quite all right. He's also from Katsina, coincidentally. The boy impregnated a 12-year-old girl, and the issue was taken up, and he was eventually sent to prison. But people didn't have that patience to read the story. They thought it was the president that impregnated a 12-year-old girl. So you need to read beyond the headline. This is just a case that I used as example. Then check what news outlets publish it. So it's very important for you to check the kind of news. Remember the example I shared with you earlier, a parody website publishing a content that 7,200 penises were exported to China. So you need to identify the kind of news outlet that published the story, and you need to identify the kind of content they put out. Then check the published date and time. This is very, very important. I was almost fooled by a video some few years ago. So we were engaged in the Ghanaian election, and some few months to the election, I saw a video on my Twitter. It was a video of a senior police officer talking to the junior officers. He was saying that, see, guys, tomorrow is election. Don't sleep with your wife tonight so that you can have enough energy for you to pursue the electioneering activities the following day. I saw the video. It was very funny. A lot of people retweeted it. A lot of people shared it. Oh, see what the Ghanaian police officers are doing to their junior officers and what have you. And I shared it with a colleague of mine in Ghana to say, see what your police officers are doing. And I wanted to ask her to try to do a fact check about it. Only for me to be told that, oh, this video has been on the internet for over 4 years. So it was a video that was shared during the 2016 election in Ghana, but it was reshared in 2020 as a recent video. So that one is even a very lighter example. There are a lot of things that people now share as recent information, but in reality, they are not recent. Then you need to also check who the author of the information is. You know, a lot of people plagiarize these days, so it's very difficult. Check the referencing. Don't read an information where people will just say, oh, this is this, that is that. No. You need to understand where they are coming from. What's the referencing? Who are their sources? Then check for quotes and other materials in the news. And beware of your cognitive biases. We've spoken about that before. Search if other news outlets published it. I do this a lot. Even if I see an information in a credible platform, I still check another credible platform to see whether they have it. And then finally, think before you share. I quickly want to share a video with us to show why it's very important for us to think before we share information. Just type yes in the chat box if you are able to see this video or if you're able to hear the sound. you. All right, thank you. Just one or two people. I would like to hear what we see in the video and what lesson we take from it. Anyone? Okay, I see Benedicta's hand. Go for it.
Okay, good evening. I think simply the video itself is self-explanatory. It's aside the thinking before you share, it's more about fact checking before you share. So you think, you fact check, you read on it before you think of sharing. So just to make sure that you are not adding more problems to the already disturbed world, you should prefer to add solutions instead. So you think, okay, then you fact check, then if it's true or if it's false before you think of sharing it, before you share. I think that's basically what I learned from the video.
Great. That's thinking like a media and information literate person. Thank you very much, Benedicta. Amarachi.
Okay, good evening.
Hi,
good evening. From the video, in fact, I see that you're more at peace and at rest when you verify that information. And you're not all aggressive, and in fact, you're more relaxed when you've seen the truth of an information and you see that, okay, there's no need to worry, there's no need to run, there's no need, let's just stay. And you can even start sharing the facts, start opposing what you've already seen with facts too. So, like Benedicta said, you have to think, you have to verify, then you are more at rest, in fact, with the truth. That's what I see.
Great. Thank you very much. Let's hear from Great Edge and we move on from there. Great Edge. Okay, I think we can take Great Edge later. So yeah, I think we've all spoken well. It's actually happened in Sweden. A lot of people published some information that the authorities have said that people should not put traffic lights out, Christmas lights out, because they don't want to offend Muslims and whatever. These are some of the reactions, but that's not the truth. The truth is the Swedish Transport Administration announced that it will no longer allow local municipalities to hang Christmas lights on the street poles under its control, citing two reasons. First, the law doesn't authorize the agency to share its electricity. And secondly, the poles aren't designed to bear extra weight. So Christmas decorations are a safety hazard. So it has nothing to do with Muslims. But you see the two frames, one of them is media literate. The other one is not media literate. The one that is media literate tried to verify whether it is true or false. And he saw that it is false. He just relaxed. He didn't share it. But the one that is not media literate and very, very impulsive, probably that person is not a Muslim. And be like, how can you tell us not to hang Christmas light because of Muslim? He allowed his impulse and shared it. And as you can see, the whole world just crashed. So that's to tell you that false information is even capable of ending the world. So quickly, how do we spot fake news or fake websites? It's important for us to check the URL. So there was an analysis we did last year where we realized that we have over 10 versions of BBC websites. So what they do is they use the BBC logo, they design the websites with the same BBC style. But if you check the URL, you see that it's not BBC. So always check out for the URL when you are engaging a website. Then check the address bar. So according to digital tech people, I'm not a digital person, they said HTTPS means that the address is secure. The S stands for secure. So always check that. If you see an address that have just HTTP, then it's most likely that it's not secure. So also beware of redirection. So if you go to a website and before you know it, they've redirected you to another website, pause for a moment. seek more information on the new page that they redirected you to before you proceed. This is an example. This is a website. The one on the right is a website. They post as Vanguard website. But if you check the URL, you see weeklyfinance.tto.something something. And if you continue to engage the website, it's a scam website. This is what they want you to do. So from posting as Vanguard website, they will take you to this weeklyfinance.to and eventually end you up in this particular page where they will be telling you that you can win some money. So you have to be very, very careful about redirection. Then you have to also check the information about the website. So even if it's just to take 1 second to read the about section of the website, it's very important. So you'll be able to identify whether it's a political related website, whether it's only public satire or what have you. Then watch for poor grammar and spelling. So what we've seen in the past is usually that all these websites that put out false information, they don't usually do a lot of gatekeeping. So you see their content having wrong spellings, you see them capitalize all the headline and what have you. So also look for reliable contact information. Look for ways to contact the company and try them out if you have some doubts. So the last part of this is fact checking. So ordinarily, as a media and information literate person, you should also be able to do some little fact checking, but we are not going into that today. Mine is just to introduce us to it. So it's just the process of verifying information with the intent of determining its correctness. So if someone sends you an image now, one of the few things you can do is to do a Google reverse image search to know when it first appeared on the internet, what it was used for, or what have you. If someone sends you a video, you can use the InVid verification tool to also check when it's appeared, where, and what have you, and several other things. I hope there will be a session to go in depth into fact checking maybe later. So this is the final slide I have today. It's just a video, and like we did the other video, I would like to hear from 2 or 3 people what we learned from this video.
Ready, busy.
All right. Thank you for coming to my cinema. I see Amarachi's hand up. I would like to see someone that has not spoken before to also speak. Okay, so let's have Amarachi. Amarachi, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you for this. Thank you for the cinema show. Personally, I've never been a great fan of reported speech. So it's always advisable to go to the source as much as you can. That's one thing I have about several news published by several newspapers. There will actually be some atom of truth. When it's 2, 3, 4, 5, it's carrying the same news. But when it's just one, I have an issue with it. So actually go to the source, check as much as you can, verify from the several. There must be one thing that will be synonymous with these things, especially like you said, those ones that actually carry facts. You've checked over time and they carry facts. So the source is always important to refer back to.
Thank you very much, Amarachi. Yeah, what else do we learn? Abila? Abila, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I think regarding this video, what specifically I learned is that communication is only effective between two people if both of them understand themselves. So by asking questions, so you've told me something, I have to ask to understand your original version. By that way, no matter the channel we're propagating it, they will always be, the first two people understand themselves. So when it gets, so asking questions, if I don't understand, I don't have to claim I assume what you said. I have to ask questions until I'm sure of at least what you have told me. That way
Thank you very much, Abila.
Yeah.
Yeah. Favor.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, my own is a question. What if I'm kind of asking as respect to if it is not coming from the news have not covered the news, like the media house have not covered the news. How then will you verify that such a news is authentic? It is not coming from the media house. None of the media house have verified it. For instance, there was a story yesterday that biological parents flogged their biological children in Lagos. And I think most of these newspapers didn't cover it. How then will you know that such a news is verified, is coming from a right source?
Okay, so as a journalist, one thing you can do is to try to reach out to people around the place, reach out to the family, try and get the sources. As a non-journalist, which I believe some of us are, the best thing is to just try to do your own verification as well, also by reaching out to sources. And if you are not able to confirm whether that is true or false, don't share it and don't act on that information. Just be patient enough to get the accurate information. So with that, we've come to the end of this session. I would like to take some questions and then we'll call it a day. Thank you very much for indulging me.
Okay, thank you so much.
Questions.
Yes, we'll take questions now. If you have questions, please kindly indicate. Kabila, are you indicating for a question because you just spoke? Okay, I assume you have a question.
Yes, I have a question.
Sorry, please go ahead.
So I think with regards to the comment the last person made or the question the last person asked, suppose an information is true, do you think that citizens have the responsibility to propagate this information? Sometimes I feel, do we, even if it is true, especially when I can't verify, why do I pressure myself? Why should citizens pressure themselves to propagate, news, for example? Sometimes beyond the fact that somebody will know, there is actually no action somebody can take. So what do you think, especially those on social media, what is the responsibility of citizens with regards to propagating news, the pressure of propagating news? The other thing is, thank you very much for this, your lesson, for this, your presentation. What can we do, especially for those of you? I'm so happy that there are a lot of work, a body of knowledge around disinformation, misinformation, and so on. I didn't imagine that it's so large, because sometimes I struggle with friends, how to explain to them how they can spot this difference and so on. So I'm excited that we have this, even this slide alone. What can be done to get more people trained on this, for example, on our campuses, universities, and so on? It's so, in our workplaces, what can you guys do, especially the, professionals in the media space? What can you do to get more of this? I imagine that the next thing after computer literacy will be this media literacy. So how can we get it fast at a cheaper rate? For example, would you be happy if I share this slide, for example, with colleagues at my workplace, for example?
Okay, thank you very much, Abila. So the parts about pressure for propagating news. So it's something that no matter what we do, people will still fall for it, but we can try as much as possible to do our own best to make sure that they don't share false information. So even if an information is accurate, yeah, of course, if an information is accurate and you've confirmed that it is true, you can share it to people. But a lot of time you realize that people don't care whether an information is accurate or not. What they do is they just share that information that conforms with their biases, or that they can use to pursue some kind of interests or what have you. So what we can do about that is just by keep trying to share the gospel of media and information literacy to them, just like we are doing today. Try to explain to them that, see, if you put out this information, it might be detrimental to some people and this and that. And I think if you're able to do that, even for just one person, you've been able to achieve something. And so getting more people trained on media. So in my own organization, Dubawa, we do a lot. If you check the website, we have a lot of media and information literacy articles. The one about how to spot a fake website is there. The one how to spot a satire website is there. How to spot a scam website. What to do if you realize that an information is false, how to fact check a video. There are lots there. So, and we also try to produce some of these media and information literacy articles in videos so that people can just see it in 1 minute and then learn something. We also go to several places to do trainings. We do trainings for journalists, we do training for students and what have you. So if it's for the sake of helping people to understand media and information literacy, I think I'm fine if you use the slide to train them. So I hope I've been able to answer your question. Let me quickly go to the chat box before Olaide asks his question. Okay, I see some questions there. Okay, my question is, should there be a punishment for misinformation? If yes, to what extent? So it's a very dicey situation. There was a time this Niger Senator, Sabi Abdullahi, brought up a bill that if anyone shares false information, that false information leads to the death of someone else, that such person should be given a death sentence. So a lot of people saw it, and then everybody flared up that why should you say that someone should be killed for sharing false information and what have you. So there are other parts of that law that people didn't see. So, but a lot of people just decided that the law should be tried. So I am of the opinion that people who share false information should be punished in some ways. Yeah. For instance, we did an analysis on people that are sharing false information on COVID-19. And one of those people is Dino Melai. And we did the analysis, we put the information out, this person is sharing this, and nothing happened. The man didn't even speak to us where we tried to reach in, this thing is false. He just called a bluff of us. That's to show you that people don't care. They just share information, false information, knowing that nothing is going to happen to them. And that's not how it's supposed to be. So I believe there should be some sort of punishment, but it shouldn't be a punishment. The problem with coming up with such punishments is that people will use it against their enemies or perceived enemies. For instance, the Cybercrime Act of 2015 is currently being used against journalists who write something that politicians don't really want. So it's very dicey, but if there's a way we can crack it, I think it's important for us to have some sort of punishment for sharing of false information, especially if it causes harm to people. Let me see if there's any other question here. Okay, let's have Olaide try to be as brief as possible so that we can have others too.
All right, thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, I think mine will be, you mentioned your website. I just want to see if there's any, excuse me, if there's any training platform for us to get further understanding about fact check, misinformation, and what have you, so that we can, for those that are interested, to take further understanding and get better knowledge as regard this conversation from the organization. Thank you.
Okay, so in my organization, we are trying to come up with some modules that will be available on the website in form of presentation and video forms, but we've not been able to do that. So what we have now is we do some trainings for journalists, for civil society actors, so I don't know which category you fall into, but if you have an organization and you think the organization should do some sort of training for you, of course, we can't go everywhere, but you can maybe propose to us, and if it falls within a time that we can squeeze in, or maybe do it online, we'll do that. So you can reach out. Amarachi.
All right, thank you, sir. I know that there's this thrill of you heard it here first. You got the information from this channel first, so I hear that a lot from vlogs and blogs and YouTube and all that. I want to know, is there something else aside the thrill of I was the first who passed this information? Is there some kind of award given to them? Because I think one of the reasons people just go ahead and spread this information that they get unverified is, I think, is because, oh, let me be the first, or let me be among the first to give this information out. So aside that thrill of this is the first place, is there something they give to them? Is there an award they get to win at the end of a particular period that actually spurs people to do this thing? Thank you.
Okay, so here is it. The information ecosystem is really changing, and the economics of it are also changing. So today, most media platforms you see around get their funding, part of their funding, through clicks online. So for instance, the likes of Premium Times, Punch, and what have you, they get some Google AdSense, and their content on Google. Or the earlier you are able to put out ad, going to get. So there is an economic motivation through that. But going beyond news organization, there are some people who just want to put out information just for the clout. there was a time, I think it was Davido that arrested a lady. I've forgotten what the issue was. I think Davido said something and the lady claimed that she was the one that did it. And meanwhile, she just said it so that she can get some clout. So there are different kinds of motivations. Some people just want to have it just for the clout, but the most important motivation for people sharing those false information is usually the economic motivation. That's why you see some media platform putting out sensational headlines that are totally different from the body of the story and the likes. Any other question before we wrap it up?
Okay, so I don't think we have any further questions. We have maximally optimized our timing. And so at this point, I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Kemi Busari for this session, very intriguing and indeed eye-opening. On behalf of the college, I'm to say thank you for your time. Thank you for the knowledge shared. Thank you for your insights. And we hope to definitely be better in terms of media literacy. Thank you very much. Tenth cohort, please let's show our appreciation to Mr. Kemi Busari. All right, and on that note, I want to say thank you for joining us this evening. 10th cohort, it's been a pleasure learning with you. I hand over to HOP, Lisa, for final words.
Okay, thank you, Shola. Not much to say. Thank you so much, Mr. Kemi Busari. It was very Thank you to everyone who joined. Thank you to our moderator, Adishola. Thank you to all the admin. Classes will continue next weekend. I think you have just 2 more weekends to go. Your graduation is 29th of January, so you're almost at the finish line. So well done, everyone. For those that will graduate with certificates, congratulations in advance. And for those who just graduate with knowledge because you did not meet up to the cutoff, still well done. All right, so I guess we'll call it an evening. Thank you all.